first business I founded, I focused heavily on finding a niche and developed a 40 to 50% ROI, but the market size was not big enough. And so I will never make that mistake again. And Iconic Pictures International has found a market that is big and yet still niched in the sense that global comedy is actually quite a niche. It's not horror, it's not drama, etc. I remember my stepbrother, when I grew up, we used to travel to England to visit some of my relatives and go out in the farmland. And one year he came with this baseball cap that didn't have the front or the back on it. It was just like a circle around his head. That hat was too niche. Not enough people wanted that type of hat, even if it looked kind of cool. All right, so what type of trends do we see in the comedy movie market these days? Actually, it's a really exciting time. From 95 to 2008, okay, comedy was very high. Exciting time for comedy. Something happened around 2009. I don't know if it's even important. To 2020, maybe the political upheaval, etc., it dropped to 3.7%. This whole time it was hovering at like 13.5% of market share. Great time for comedy, awful time for comedy. Down, 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 down. 2020, finally, to 2023, we see it going up from 3.7 to 16%. Okay, so for the first time since 2009, comedy is starting to make an upswing. We can go more into that in a little bit. Box office is competing against streaming. It's true. But the box office business model is still incomparable. There's no business model on planet Earth like the box office business model. Barbie and Oppenheimer last summer, terrific numbers, extraordinary numbers. I don't think the box office has seen numbers like that in a long time, and same with Top Gun Maverick. So yes, competing with streaming, but also setting revenue records. Anyone But You, a romance that just came out this past year, 2024, made $220 million on a 25 budget. 25 million to 223 million. That's a romantic comedy. Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom, 15 million to 225 million. Excuse me, the marker isn't good, but I think Sound of Freedom, about child trafficking. Extraordinary numbers at the box office. There are very few business models like that. Five Nights at Freddy's, 20 million, 290 million. 20 million to 290 million. Again, this doesn't include ancillary or streaming. If we divide that, we can see the multiples are extraordinary. So we're scaling upward with a franchise and then eventually merchandising, and we are leveraging the box office business model. After studying film at NYU, I studied screenwriting with Eduardo Machado, who is an executive story editor on HBO's Hung. The screenplay that I have written and will also be co-written from someone else from the industry. The story received a recommend from a top coverage provider in the industry. Less than 1% of screenplays receive this. That is what the first franchise installment will be based on. I was featured on Comedy Central, NBC, CBS, and IFC Films. And again, my background also is in business. It's coupled with film and entrepreneurship, with my first business. So I say that because that is why the focus of Iconic Pictures is on balancing commerce and art and entertainment, commerce and media. I want to apologize a little bit if you're watching some of the other videos I think at a certain point, my energy kind of dropped a little bit. I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, and I didn't really drink much coffee or caffeine, so excuse me. But all right, let's focus here. So Iconic has 2 partnerships with larger companies. One is in LA. Okay, I talked about this in another video, that is handling the financial management. And another one is in Stockholm, Sweden. Why these 2 companies? They both have track records in the industry. The one in Sweden is an 800-pound gorilla in the room. The one in LA is like a 600-pound gorilla. 100 films, no losses. The one in Sweden, 100 years in the business, excellent track record. Great prices for high quality that gives the investor higher profit. You can learn more about these partnerships in a meeting with the team. I want to touch a little bit on the team members that make up Iconic Pictures International, because it's an early stage company, but again, the team has decades of experience. Andrew Hilton, the script coverage provider for the company, he has analyzed 27 comedy screenplays that all became box office hits. Liar, Liar, Meet the Parents, Anchorman, Liar, Liar, Anchorman, Meet the Parents, Zoolander, Ocean's 11. So he has his eye on the ball when it comes to commercial viability. Our movie publicist, Maxine Leonard, she's led publicity campaigns for over 100 Hollywood films. That includes Ferrari, just came out in theaters about 6 months ago. $95 million budget. Beekeeper with Jason Statham, $40 million budget. Hunger Games. I forget the name of the last one. There's so many of them coming out these days. And then there's Long Shot with Seth Rogen. I believe that was $40 million. Peter Thiel, who started PayPal, he has a quote. He says, "Even the best product is a bad business if the market is too small." This is kind of what I was alluding to before regarding my stepbrother who wore this baseball cap that nobody really just wasn't popular, but it didn't have a big market, that type of hat. The first company I started, excellent high net profit, small market size. So market size is critical here. What is it? What is it for global comedy films? Well, if we were to include all of TV, video, and film, it's 43 billion comedy. That's TV, video, film. What's the total addressable market size? I'm going to go over that in just a moment. First, I just want to touch on what is the market size for comedy films at the box office alone. So at the box office, it's $2.2 billion. Okay, but that number in and of itself is actually not that exciting. What is exciting is the money that's being left on the table for global comedy films. This is not near comedy's potential at the box office. And I'll explain in just a moment. The total box office potential for comedy is $5.3 billion. How do we know, $5.2 billion. How do we know that? Because if you remember in the earlier part of this video, in the late 90s to early 2000s, comedy had a consistent market share of about 13 to 14%. That's one factor. The second factor is that most genres at the movies, horror, adventure, drama, U.S. English films are capturing 70% of their revenue from foreign sales. Comedy, right now, only 23% of its revenue is coming from foreign sales. Okay? That means that if we crack the code and we get comedy to be global, and derive as much revenue from foreign sales as these other genres are doing at the box office globally, and it takes 70% of its revenue from foreign sales, that brings comedy's total market share to $5.2 billion. And that is what creates the $3 billion that's unaccounted for at the box office. And this is the problem that Iconic Pictures is solving. How to make comedy movies global so that the company and its investors can tap into this $3 billion at the box office. Why is now the right time to invest in global comedy movies? Well, the last streak for comedy, as I said earlier, ran for 15 years from 1995 to 2010 or 2009. We are now in year 2 of comedy's rebound. So if you want to invest in something that is beginning to trend upward, I would suggest global comedy movies or action comedy movies. 2, Iconic Pictures is an early stage company. IPOs, publicly traded companies, typically start to plateau and returns are kind of average. If I were to invest and seek high returns, I would look for a early stage company that has the potential, and I would get in at the ground up. 3, right now there's a mental health pandemic in the West, especially in the United States. We read about it in the news. There was recently the pandemic. There's AI that's sort of upon us, changing society. There is a need for comic relief more than ever. That is what I ascribe this change in comedy trend. Also, A-list actors right now, due to shifting trends in the marketplace and the business, we can get an A-list actor at a good price, especially with the partners that we work with. Let's talk about the barriers to entry. Commercial film business. There is a lot of knowledge to making these films. The gatekeepers do not allow public. So if you were to invest in a film, I would invest in a company that has access to this insider knowledge. Also, industry contacts. It is not easy to break into the film business because of the contacts that are required. It's actually a very small industry. Huge revenue potential, small circle of people. Lastly, talent agents are notoriously difficult to access. It is virtually impossible for any average person or company to get a hold of an agent who's representing an A-list actor. We suggest requesting a meeting to learn more and receiving an investment presentation package. Because it is potentially a long-term professional relationship, we recommend at least a few Zoom meetings and doing due diligence. And if it is a win-win situation, then moving forward. Thank you.